Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thought I'd do a quick video. I haven't seen you guys for a few weeks. Thought I'd get something put together. I've been working on, obviously I've removed the blue surround, just cut it right off because we had a lot of rot on both ends and this was in the way. And to make the repair and also remove the engine, I removed this because it's no good anyway. And I've got a donor car that I'm going to reinstall the radiator shroud from, and it's good at both ends where it joins to the fender mount. Here's again a section on this side I cut off where the guy had just spot welded around and put metal to metal. This is actually one of our patches that we ended up actually cutting into to get rid of his. Like I say, here we go, there's a good example, if you can see that. He's just laminated two pieces on top of each other again. So I'm doing my best to get rid of all of those kind of repairs and put it back to as close to factory as possible. Now this is the panel we ended up putting in, new panel here, and I just put some rust encapsulator on it just to seal it off. But you can see it's got kind of a messiness here. I cut short, our patch goes further than this, but what I think I'll do is I'm going to repair this area and then I can attach to our new section. So I cut that ugly patch out of there. That is actually a patch of ours under there which we butt welded, and that's fine, you can't really see that, that's just zinc primer there, or copper primer. You can see on this side, here's the other side of it, I welded both sides, I can blend that in, not a problem. But you can see right here where he's laminated it together. So I want to get rid of all that kind of stuff. Now, this is just a quick overview video really, but you can see, get this thing out of the way. You can see how much room now I've got to pull that engine. As I said to you guys on the Facebook group, I don't have the facility to lift it high enough over the radiator surround to get it out. But this means all we have to do is clear this lower section here, and I left these uprights, these stanchions in, and I'll tell you why. Put that down. These stanchions, obviously the radiator holders, these I left because I didn't want to get into breaking the spot welds down on the bumper bar, because you know when you're breaking those spot welds you can damage the metal behind. So I wanted to limit that, and also the measurement between these two stanchions is slightly, just a slightly wider, probably about 3/16 wider than the donor car. Now I think that's probably just a, you know, not an error but a change in the factory. You know, they didn't quite line up, because I think the distance there isn't vital to that degree, you know, within the 16th, but I left them just in case. So then they give us a good reference point to spot weld here and here to the radiator surround, so they're a fixed reference point. Okay, and also our reference point is the bolt holes where I can remount the fender, and then make sure that all the mount holes from the patch mounts and connects here. Then we've got a hole here and a bolt hole here, so we make dry fit everything, make sure that lines up nicely. And the same for this side. You can see this horror show here. Again, in my exploration I've got another laminated patch here he did, and then I'll show you the piece that come out of it. God, real mess it was. I do have to remove the air leveling valve, the main valve here, this bracket, to be able to patch in nicely and then re-weld this bracket on. That's not a big deal. I'm kind of using, you can see I've done a little marking here where the cable lines up to, and make sure we go back in the right place again. So we just got to tidy up all this underneath here. Again, you can see where someone has done some sloppy welding before. We broke the air tank bracket, cut it off so I could get to all this. These three holes are unique to the 109 with the air suspension, so I'd like to save those. Getting a little close up the top here. Even if I have to repatch in, I can always recut with a recip saw, because that obviously has the rubber grommet as well. And let's see, so we just roughly cut here. We got plenty of meat. This is the line where, see it, light's getting bad here. You can see this line here is where our patch comes to, and our patch is big enough to take all of this out. So I roughly cut it back just so I can start working my position. None of this goes back in, obviously, until we get that engine out. So in the week I've repaired this bumper bracket here. I took this completely off the other car. Okay, that's better light here. Now this whole section is straight off of the other car. There is a weld line here. I don't know whether you can see it at all. It's gone in really nice, and I spot welded it all along, so that's completely new and fresh. I'm going to fill that hole in. I'll make a little disc and I'll weld that in there so you won't see that, and then remount our bracket for the air tank just here. So then that's pretty much done. See this tab here on the main frame? That was kind of heavily pitted and I didn't like the look of it, so I just sliced it back to good metal and welded on fresh tab there. So that came out real nice. That's that. There's our reinforcement bracket. I put some zinc or rust encapsulator on that. I am going to seam seal all around this edge, all around the edge. I've left the opening at the bottom for drainage. What else here? This hole I'm going to be repairing. I'm just kind of giving you an overview because I don't know that I'm going to be doing videos of every single one of these repairs, just kind of showing you as I go. So anyway, also while we're on this side, just for reference of people with the 108, 109s and more than likely other bodies as well, see this little divot here, this kind of bump here, this is a drain hole. So as you can imagine, as moisture comes into the engine bay and gets you know, a little moisture here on the other side rolls down to this point and then can drain straight out. These are prone to get blocked, and kind of leaves and pine needles get blocked in there, so just check those. Shove a little thin screwdriver up there and maybe a high pressure air line and clean those out. Same goes with this bumper bracket here. There are these little divots here for drain. This one I'm assuming from the factory, you know, depending on which way round they do it, so they're on both sides. So this is a drain hole. Make sure they're cleared out, because let me see if I can find, oh, here we go. Here is the one that I cut off. As you can see, the drain holes were blocked and it just rots straight out. That grinding mark there is me when I was cutting off the air tank bracket, but you can see it does quite a bit of damage and holds moisture into the ends there, hidden out of the way. So they might look pretty, so just make sure those drain holes on both ends are clear, and also midway across the beam there should be drain holes there. Make sure those are clear. And what I did also is I injected with some internal frame coating in there to prevent rust, further rust. So that's that. I also took this one. Now this is a bumper bracket from the donor car, and what I notice, see here on again, I'll see if I've got the original around here somewhere. I think I try and save the part so you can see, but you see this piece here, it would concertinaed, and so what I think's happened, someone had hit it, you know, not really hard enough to do a lot of damage, but it had concertinaed this here, and so this bumper bracket was pointing way up, and there's no way I'm going to be able to re-bend that down. It was just too strong of a bracket. So I drilled out the spot welds and re-welded this one on and checked my positioning. I'll show you how I did that. Hold on a second. I have this bumper iron. I stripped off the bumper, you know, the chrome in it, and used that as my reference point to make sure we're all lined up here. So I know that that fits. And while I was in here, this metal here was heavily pitted, so I've welded in a new plate here and smoothed it all out nice so you can't see any joins. You've got 4 spot welds, 8, you've got 16 spot welds, 19, 22, so it's 3, 3, 4, 4, 4 and all that, so it's 22 spot welds holding that sucker on there, so that ain't going anywhere. So anyway, so that's new. Hope you don't mind, you guys, that I didn't videotape all that, but I kind of got into it in the week and I was just on a roll. So this is all fresh here. There is a join there where I welded, 16 gauge steel, really nice join, nice and strong. You know, in hindsight, probably would have been best just to replace the whole thing, but once you start getting into it, you know, things open up to you, and you know, you just learn as you go, don't you? But this is as strong as ours is now, and I'm very confident about that. So this is the new radiator surround, new to this guy obviously, and I chopped out the sections that I needed, and this is the area that we were having trouble with. Obviously the join from here to here was all completely rotted out, so I'm going to clean all this under seal, make sure this is all clean and sealed up nice, and then we'll have all our nice fresh bolted edge. Where I was cutting it off, I run too far with the grinder, and see where there's a break there, I can weld that, no problem, get that welded and you won't see that. Weld that in. There's a few little spot weld damages here that I will correct before it gets welded in. See where the spot welds were at the top flange there. I've cleaned the underside where it's going to be re-spot welded in. Obviously I've taken my badges off the 6.3 and I'll transfer them to this guy. Little indentations here where the spot welds, I'm just doing some panel beating there to get those corrected. So you can see roughly how it's going to go. Obviously I'm going to spend a lot of time really refining how that gets fitted in there, dry fitting, clamping, holding. I've got my reference point, the hood will come down to latch, I've got my two fenders. Even though all the bolt holes are off there, I've got the far bolt holes and the front ones here, and then the line of the hood to align everything. So obviously at that point the engine will be out and I'll be able to get right in there and clamp it off and do all the welding that's necessary. So one other thing, you guys with the 6.3s with the air cleaner on this side, I'll tell you, I haven't got it right now, but once this is in, right, to try and get that air cleaner in this area, turning with the receiving end coming out this side, is nigh on impossible. And I am baffled. I would love to hear from you guys how someone, after everything's nicely painted, is going to get that air cleaner in there without scratching the crap out of the paint. I really don't know. So any tips on that would be really... I struggled with it for a while, and I'm thinking this is going to tear the paint up on the cleaner and also the interior of the engine bay. So any tricks to that, I'd really appreciate it. What else? Oh, you can see these are the drain hole areas here, right down the bottom there. On the you can see, imagine that's a straight path there to that drain hole. So that is that. I can't wait to get that engine out and get cleaning up the engine bay and get everything epoxy primered, you know, get it all sealed up. And you know, my next job is to get that engine onto an engine test stand, which I'm gonna weld something up, make a test stand and test the operation of the engine out of the car, so we know we're good to go before that goes back in there. When we go to refit the engine, we'll obviously have to roll the car outside because of my height issues, probably take the hood off and all that good stuff. But I'll be tapping into you guys and advice on the group and Facebook, and we'll get it done. So what else is going on here? So that's pretty much the tail of the tape so far on the 6.3. I've kind of I'm finished in this quarter here. Once the engine's out and that's all the welding done all around the front, all round to essentially the whole front of the car. Next thing to do is start addressing this, watch the light, start addressing this, get all that. What I'm going to do with that, I'm going to snag the rocker, outside rocker off that donor car. There's a lot of spot welds all on the top and all on that pinch weld all the way to the bottom, and that will make that a lot easier. So this is even though it looks horrendous, that's not such a big deal. It's encroached onto the floor pan a little bit, the rust, and we'll be doing some replacement of that section of the floor pan. It hasn't gone into the car, so to speak. It's restricted right into the inner rocker area, so that is something that's the next big job. Anyway, so we'll probably work from the inside out, get the inner rocker straight and rust free and completely welded in, then the outer rocker can go on. Obviously the outer rocker on this car is 4 inches longer than the other one, which is not a big deal because I can make up that extra 4 inches with my forms. You can see where our patch is going to go. This is where we're going to be, so this distance between this nut and this one is crucial. Obviously we're going to be measuring very carefully, get that and get all this muck out of there. Like I say, I'll probably patch that first, bring spare metal out and then cut back into it again. Sounds a lot of work, but I'm getting faster and faster with the welding and more confident to do a nice smooth weld, and yeah, not a problem. As you can see, remember that patch that we did a little while back, that little triangular patch, that came out real nice. So we don't have to cut that out. We've just gone through our old patch there that we did a few weeks back. You can see that is the join from the radiator to the inner fender there. You can see, again, this is a reference for you guys that have these cars. It's a little rust trap area there where the rust is sitting. So you might want to inspect that on your car. It's a very difficult area to get to. On the left side you've probably got the air filter in the way, and depending on the other cars you have some other stuff in the way on the left side. So this is the section of the bumper on the strap out of the way here. The driver's side, this is the mount holes for the bumper here on the right, and you can see the metal is heavily pitted here. And on the other side again we've got rust, we've got a little rust hole beginning here, and this is obviously where the reinforcement plate is for the bumper, and you can see that's the rust prone area, and so I wanted to get rid of that. So you can see we got our nice new one in there, and I did, if any of you know these cars very well, this line, this hole here is a bolt hole for the fender on the bottom tab below the headlight, and then that has to correspond obviously to the upper mount holes and over to here, this mount hole here. So this distance here and here have to be just smack on. This obviously has to be level, and this distance here is crucial. So that took a little fiddling around with the other day. Here's a bunch of my spot welds here, so that's lammed on there. Okay, for those of you who want to see a little bit of welding today, why don't we just weld this little split up here. That's my screw up, that is. I wasn't thinking I was going to be using a lot of this metal, so wasn't that bothered, but it turns out because the way the job's working out, I do want this. Not to worry about this split, you see, because we can quite easily repair that. Let me show you. I'll get that clamped in position and nice and level, and we'll run some beads and we'll do it both sides, and we'll smooth it out and see how it looks. As I say, spend a bit of time making sure that's dead level. Got a little clamp here, little woodworking clamp actually, just to make sure. It's a little bit of a wide gap, but we should be able to feel that and get that all smoothed out with the grinder, and we'll see how it looks. Now the only thing that might cause a bit of problem today is there's a little windy out, and I am under the canopy here, and we don't want the shielding gas to be blown away, so let's see how we get on, shall we? Otherwise we'll have to move in. Give me a little time to get the settings right. I was blowing through on the edges because I think the gap is really probably a little bit too much, but I'm very careful, real short bursts, you know. and it is a bit blowy, so I'm trying to go between the wind here. Okay, it was a little tricky to get started. I think the wind was interrupting the gas flow, but between the breeze dying down, I was able to weld that up. You can see that that's pretty smooth, and yeah. What I've been doing, I've changed my grinding process. As you see, I knock the heads down with the grinder just to get them down quick. Knock those heads down, and when it gets close to interrupting the two metals, then I've been switching to an 80 grit flap wheel. Oh, here we go. I bought these off of Amazon, I think. No particular make, I'm not sure. Zirconium flat disc, and they're great for. This is an 80 grit, so it's got some aggression, but not crazy. I was going a little aggressive, I think, before, and this I was able to just gently drag and feather in, and you have a bit more control and not as much concern about damaging the surrounding metal. So once I get that smoothed out, then I switch to the conditioning disc just to kind of blend it and feather it and all that business. So that's come out pretty well, and the underside I'm going to not try and smooth out. I'm going to leave those welds pretty solid there, because that all gets hidden, so you'll never see that. Next thing to do is repair these little holes here that were damaged from the spot weld removal. I won't do that on camera, but you get the idea. I'll flatten those out, run a few little tacks there and feather it out, no problem. So you can see we can do some quite nice repairs. I won't need filler or anything. So once you're built up with epoxy primer and all that stuff, that'll be invisible. So a little trickier to weld on 18 gauge than the 16 gauge, obviously. You just got to do a bunch of practicing on some scrap metal, get yourself confident and spread the heat around. I'm getting quite used to the gun and the way the welder works. So what I'm going to do now, let me switch camera positions, I'll show you. Okay, obviously this is the top flange here. This car, here we go. Now this badge, this long badge, was over here, you see, and this badge was here. So that's a bit different from the 6.3. The 6.3 has a smaller plaque off to the side here, and this one is the same, the colour chart plaque. I haven't taken it off yet, but that's essentially, actually, I'll position it exactly the same. And that's going to be positioned around there. I want to do everything as it was, came off the other car, you see. So what I need to do is I want to fill in these little holes, these holes, which won't take a sec, and then we can re-drill these holes, can't we? So there we go. So let's clean this metal up and get that done. Another thing, I'm not affiliated with any company or anything, obviously, but I want to tell you guys what I find tools really work. And get this grinding wheel off here. Now these by Scotch-Brite, these clean and strip, they're about 13 bucks each, but I tell you, these by 3M Scotch-Brite, I think they're extra coarse ones, clean and strip XT Pro disc from Scotch-Brite. Ordered them from Amazon, and I tell you, this wheel is done so much, and it just, I mean, obviously it's wearing down and not getting clogged as much as the other ones, so really recommend that. You watch, make short work of this paint removal here to get a clean surface. And also, it's extremely good for getting the mill scale off for when you're welding. So instead of dealing with acids and all that business and vinegar, because who's going to do that really? You know, you might do it on the odd piece, but all this, you just want to get it done, don't you? So you watch. Oh, help if I plugged it in, wouldn't it? So bearing in mind this disc is, I've put it through its paces, and you watch what it does to this. Well, that's different, because I've got the serial number stamped on the top plate here. Now, I've not seen that on any of my cars, so I will probably skim a bit of filler on that. I might leave those little Mercedes symbols just for a laugh, but I'm going to fill in all of those, because obviously it's not a 108, is it? So anyway, you can see how well this works. I'll show you a little thing I come up with if you're having trouble seeing that you're hitting the parent metal. So I just like to dust coat it, a bit of paint, any old paint, no matter. And what that does, you'll see, let that dry for a minute, what that will show is when you kiss the parent metal, it will show silver, won't it? So this will help you kind of hone in on where you're grinding. Okay, that paint's dry now. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. So it's all black, you see, and then it just enables you, gives you a target to hit, you see. See, that's a good example right there. See that? I'm just taking the tops off that wheel, but you can see the lower section there. It just kissed the paint. Obviously that's not very much, but it gives you a guide. So I think it helps a great deal actually. So I'll just carry on, get all this smoothed out, and we'll see how it all looks. Right, so that's all smoothed out now, ready for the badges. So this is the 6.3 one, which we are going to locate around about here. Yeah, around about there. That will cover the mass amount of that serial number actually. So that will cover that. And then this isn't the colour plaque, because I've got to take that off the 6.3. And the colour plaque will go here, and then we've got no other holes. So that filled in quite nicely. Those of you sharp-eyed guys probably noticed I got a new welding helmet. It's not my first choice, nothing against America or anything, but I was kind of looking for the Union Jack and maybe some fish and chips on this side and a cup of tea or something, but I went with this one. It's pretty cool though, much better than the other piece of rubbish I had. Much bigger viewing area, and I put 2.0 cheetah lens in there, so it really brings up magnification, so you really see what you're doing. And it's got a weld mode and all that, so it's been a really good addition. So anyway, okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. What we've got coming up in the not too distant future, I've just got to make sure I've got enough help with me to get this guy out. I do want to get an engine leveler, so we can position this engine as we need it, as we pull it out, and then that frees up a bunch of work. Whoops, that's my new cow. Good luck charm. Yeah, that will free us up to do a lot more work on the inside of the engine bay and get that all buttoned up. I don't think there's a great deal to do in there as far as rust repair on further back. We're going to have taken care of a lot of that up front. So once I get all that cleaned up, we'll get an epoxy, and then we'll end up painting that, getting that done probably first before I do any of the rest of the car anyway. So I think that's about it, guys. I appreciate you watching, and please hit subscribe and the like button if you like what you see, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.